All right, let's talk about a big misconception out there in terms of spouse benefits and how spouse benefits are calculated once you file for benefits on your own record early and then your spouse later files. This is also a live Q&A. I'm looking at some of the questions that have already come through, and a couple of other people have answered some of those questions, but the answers are not completely correct. So let me go ahead and get into a common misconception here about spouse benefits, and then I'll get into all of the questions, and we'll see if we can correct some of the mistakes here that other live. I appreciate you helping, but we want to make sure we give out the right information. All right, so let me go ahead and show the charts. Basically, what it is when you file. So if you're whether it's a current spouse or divorced spouse or whatever the case may be, and we're talking spouse in terms of your spouse is still out there alive and kicking. So surviving spouses are different. I'll talk about that in a second. But when you have a current or divorced spouse and you're eligible for benefits on their record, you have to file for benefits on your own record first. So you go ahead and file for benefits on your own record. So in this particular case, I come up with a little example here, try to make it as easy as possible. Let's make it easy. The wife is the lower income earner. We could go either way. I know the opposite is also true, but let's just say the wife is the lower income earner, and her benefit amount, her full benefit amount is $1,000. So that's what her called her PIA, her primary insurance amount is $1,000. And her husband's full benefit amount, PIA, primary insurance amount, the benefit that he would receive at full retirement age is $3,000. I'll try to make this easy as possible. So let's say she files for benefits at 62, therefore she's getting the full reduction, the 30% reduction. So she will not receive the $1,000, she'll receive a reduced amount of $700. Okay. So let's say later on, husband files for benefits and starts getting those benefits, and she's entitled to up to 50%. Let's say now she's her full retirement age. So she filed at 62. And then 5 years later at 67, her husband files for benefits. And, so she's now eligible for the full benefit amount, the full 50%. Okay. But the common miscalculation is it's not, so half of $3,000 is $1,500. It's not $1,500 minus her own monthly benefit amount. So she's not going to get $800 from her husband. It's $1,500. The reality is it's $1,500 minus her own primary insurance amount, not her reduced, not how much her check is. It's her primary insurance amount. So it's $1,500 minus $1,000. So she'll get $500 from her spouse. So her total benefit will be $1,200, not $1,500, because she's always given up that $300. So, but sometimes, this is called a split strategy, and this is used quite often by a lot of people. They call me up all the time and they say, well, I'm married. Should we go ahead and, should the lower earning spouse go ahead and take the benefits now? So, well, if you started at 62 or 63, 64, you're going to be reduced. But when the higher earning spouse files later, your benefit is going to be increased up to that amount. But you're still going to, in this particular case, you're still going to get that $300, reduction because yours is reduced, but you're still going to get, the $500 just as you would have gotten. You're always entitled to that $500. Again, that is reduced as well if you start your spouse benefits early. So the $500 is if, you waited till your full retirement age. All right. So that is a misconception, but usually it works out because you're losing the $300, but then you're getting a check for $700 for 5 years, right? So it usually just works out that way. A lot of people just go ahead and start getting those benefits early, particularly when we're talking about cuts happening in the future if Congress doesn't do their job. So get while the getting's good. And now let's talk about survivor benefits. So if the higher earning spouse passes away and the lower earning spouse is their full retirement age, then that person gets the $3,000. So the total check that the surviving spouse will get, if the surviving spouse is full retirement age, is the full $3,000. Technically, they'll get $700 from their own account and the other $2,300 from their deceased spouse's account. So they're technically getting two checks, but nobody really notices they're actually getting two checks. They're just getting the $3,000. Obviously, if the lower earning spouse passes away first, then the higher earning spouse doesn't get anything because the higher earning spouse's benefit is higher, other than that lump sum death payment of $255. So the calculations are a little bit complicated. I'm coming up with a calculator. My new website with all the calculators should be done in about a week or so. I said that about a week ago, but I'm making it. I keep adding more stuff, so making it better and better. Okay, so you just have to figure out where you want that money first, and with the understanding that if something happens, then hey, you're going to get that full benefit amount. Okay, let's get into some questions here, and we'll see if I can grab those ones that weren't 100% correct. All right. Number one is, Dr. Weir, is this statement true? A non-U.S. citizen who qualified for and has been receiving SSDI since 2000, it is highly probable that you are continuing to accrue deemed work credits. Okay, so a non-citizen, if they're in this country legally, there's a bunch of, internet myths out there about, undocumented immigrants receiving Social Security cards. If they're not in the country legally, they cannot receive Social Security numbers. They cannot receive federal benefits, whether it's Medicare, Medicaid, retirement benefits, disability benefits. If someone is receiving that, then you need to call the Office of Inspector General and they will stop those benefits. But yeah, that's the internet myth out there. So yeah, if the person is a non-U.S. citizen, that's fine. There's a lot of green card holders that are in this country legally, and if they're entitled to benefits, they paid into disability. So SSDI, that is a paid benefit. So that person worked in the country and paid into FICA taxes, paid into Social Security, and became disabled, passed the thing. So continuing to accrue deemed work credits, no such thing as kind of deemed work credits. You're probably talking about quarters of coverage. But yes, if the person is receiving disability and working, which if you're receiving disability, you are able to work a limited amount. And so, yeah, and when you work, you pay into FICA. So yes, people, whether they're citizens or non-citizens and are receiving disability benefits and they work, then they're paying into it. And that just might increase their benefit amount. So yes, if I apply for medical, will they deduct on my SSA benefit payment? Okay, so it depends what type of medical we're talking about. Are you talking about Medi-Cal, which is the state of California Medicaid? So if that's what you're talking about, then no. Medicaid does not affect your Social Security benefit. Let's see, what else we've got here. Fancy, self-employed, still working, 65 in November. If you are no longer work able, can you get SSDI if you on SSA retirement, like to work as long as possible? And someone answered this question incorrectly. They said when you're 65, you cannot file for disability. That is incorrect. You can file for disability technically anytime. You're 80 years old, but you won't get it at 80 because there's no such thing. I think what the other person answering the question, after your full retirement age, nobody gets Social Security disability, period, full stop. Once you hit your full retirement age, if you're receiving disability benefits, your disability benefits switch to regular retirement benefits, and that's for everybody. Nobody after their full retirement age is receiving disability benefits anymore. They're all switched to regular retirement benefits. So I think the misunderstanding here is that, so if you're 65, obviously your retirement age, your full retirement age is not 65. So yes, you can file for disability benefits. Would it benefit you? Yeah, if you're approved, because if you're already receiving regular retirement benefits from Social Security, and let's say you started at 64 years old, then you're getting a reduced amount. And if you file for disability, then you're going to be receiving the full amount minus what you've already received on retirement benefits. So it'll most likely, if you're approved for disability today, effective today, then your benefit amount will increase. It won't affect your Medicare because you're already, getting Medicare based on 65. Once you hit your full retirement age again, it's saying that, um, you are going to be switched to regular retirement benefits. So the purpose of deemed credits is to protect their future retirement benefit eligibility for crediting them as if they were still working while they are unable to do their disability. Yeah, there's no real technical thing as deemed credit. There's deemed filing, but deemed credits. Okay. Let's see what else here. Survivorship benefits. My friend, 70, her ex, 60, made more money. Married 12 years, divorced 4. He drugs, alcohol, homeless. She doesn't know if he's still alive. Does Social Security get notifications on homeless passing? Yes. Well, I mean, obviously, if someone just goes off into the woods and disappears, then it's going to be more difficult. But normally, yes. So I would have your friend, and number one, thank you for looking out for other people. That's the main job of our channel here, is to not only think about ourselves, but think about all those people around you. So good job on that. So yeah, have her call Social Security, and she probably doesn't know his Social Security number, which is no big deal. Just call up Social Security and say, hey, I was married to this guy for at least 10 years. I'm not currently married, unless you're married after 60. I want to see if there's any more money there, and give whoever answers the phone at Social Security, give them the person's name, their date of birth as well as you know it, the city and state where they were born as well as you know it. And I have never, ever not been able to find a Social Security number with just a very limited amount of information. I've had, the guy's name is Steve Smith, and he was born somewhere in Dallas in the 60s, and I was able to find the Social Security number. So, they'll be able to find the Social Security number, and then they will see if there's any extra money there in terms of his benefit amount. And if there is, they will schedule an appointment for her to come on down and get her money. So, and she can thank you for that. You can only collect survivor benefits if you are 62. That is incorrect. You can collect survivor benefits at 60 years old. Survivor benefits start at 60, unless you're disabled. If you're disabled, survivor benefits can start at 50 years old. It's called disabled widows benefits. I received a letter today on my disability claim that said I met the disability requirements, and now they have to check I meet non-medical requirements. What does that mean? Okay, perfect. So what happens when you filed your disability claim, Chris? You filed it in the local Social Security office. They checked all the stuff, make sure you're insured. They ask you all the questions about your doctors, yada, yada, yada. And then they send it up to DDS, the Disability Determination Services, and they do the medical determination. Sounds like they've done it. And now they send it back to the Social Security Administration for adjudication to process it. So they go back and, they confirm, your direct deposit and your address, and, make sure you're still, you haven't got a job yesterday that you're making $1 million a month. So yeah, you're in the final part there. So that's a beautiful thing. So watch my videos on, when you receive disability benefits, the CDRs and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully it works out good. And you have to be married 10 years and no remarriage. Okay. So this is about, no, that's another incorrect. You can be, this person was talking about spouse benefits. So you're entitled to any benefits on someone's record if you were married to them for 10 years. And if you remarried, if you got divorced again, then it doesn't preclude you from getting the first one. I've had people that were married 4 times, and it was each 10 years. And so they were entitled to any of those. So a remarriage doesn't matter unless you are still married. If you're still married, then you can't get it on an ex-spouse. But if you've remarried and then divorced, then it's not an issue. So, all right, let's see. We got the questions. Hey, Judith, I phoned Social Security today to inquire about my Weir. WEP, probably WEP, windfall elimination provision. They said they couldn't take my call today between Wednesday and Friday for better access. No callback offered. I have not received my payment. Wow. Yeah. So if that's the WEP, based on the Social Security Fairness Act, they're working through those right now. They say, if your pay date is the fourth Wednesday of the month, you've got another little bit of time here. But they say wait until the end of April, and if you didn't receive it, then start calling in May for those Social Security Fairness Act payments. Yeah, that's crazy. They couldn't take your call between Wednesday and Friday for better access. No call. Yeah, that's Congress. Congress is not providing Social Security resources that they need to provide customer service, even though you paid for that customer service for all those decades you paid in a FICA. Congress is refusing to provide resources, and they're firing people, or relocating people. So yeah, it's crazy. You can get SSI disability at 65 if you have never worked. Okay. Incorrect again. No. Oh, yeah, that's incorrect. Sorry, Dot, where you're batting zero. SSI disability, it's not disability SSI once you hit 65, then it turns into aged. So you're correct, but the terminology you're using is incorrect. So in order to get SSI, which is the welfare-based benefit, that's a low-income, low-resources benefit that the Social Security Administration administers. It's been around since 1974. It's not part of the original Social Security Act. But you can get it based on being disabled. Or you can get it based on being aged, and aged is considered 65. So you're kind of correct, but when you're 65, you can get SSI being based on being aged. But then you still have to fulfill the requirements of low income, low resources. So Brenda, I inherited in my house, and I think I added another syllable there. When I sell it, will I pay capital gains tax, and will the sell impact my Social Security? Okay, so yeah, I can't tell you about IRS type stuff, but I think there's an exclusion there. I don't want to give out stuff, $250,000 if you're single, 500, but if it's your primary home, and yada, yada, yada. But anyway, talk to your IRS person about that. But in terms of Social Security, no, it does not affect your Social Security unless you're receiving SSI, the welfare-based program. You might be thinking about Medicare. If you're receiving Medicare, then yes, if you sold your house and it's beyond the exclusion of $250,000 or $500,000, then you just might pay an extra premium for Part B and Part D. It's called the IRMA, Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. So yes. All right. Somebody has two questions. Let's see. Can I apply for retirement benefits online while being abroad? Possibly. The Social Security computer system, monitors that stuff. And if you're able to access it, whatever country you are, and if you use a VPN if you're able to do it, then you're able to do it. Usually you can't. It just doesn't give you access. But if you can, anyway. And how to find exact required documents needed for retirement benefits. I am a naturalized citizen. So if you're a naturalized citizen, once you became naturalized, did you update your Social Security card? Most people don't do it. Basically, when you become a naturalized, your Social Security card, it obviously doesn't show on your Social Security card, but the internal records, it has, your name when you came over and got your green card and everything. You got your name, your date of birth, and where you're born and all that kind of stuff. And it says you're, not a citizen. So when you become naturalized, what you're technically supposed to do, but everybody forgets, is no big deal. You're supposed to update your Social Security card to notify them that you became naturalized. If you did it at that time, then you probably won't need anything, when you file online. But if you didn't, then, just go ahead and do it, try it. If you're not able to do it, then you'll have to contact your local consulate or embassy and file. And then whatever documents they request, then just go ahead and provide them. If they need a birth certificate, Skowski, in whatever language, don't translate it. It has to be the original birth certificate from the issuing agency from whatever country, and it has to be in the original language. You have to provide the original language. Don't waste your money on getting it translated or translate it yourself. Social Security employee has to translate it. I used to do all the Japanese translations for pretty much the West Coast. So, hello, are disabled widower benefits different from survivor benefits? And if so, what's the difference? Nope, all the same thing. Yeah, widow benefits, widower benefits, survivor benefits, all basically the same thing. Same calculation, same requirements and everything. Good question here. After May 7th, do you need a real ID to enter federal building? No. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of social media. Please stop out there. I know these, people are looking for clicks, and I got to admit, I look for clicks because I want people to get the information that they need, because so many people are not receiving benefits. But there's people out there that are just doing it for clicks, and it's just no useful information whatsoever. And this is one of those examples. They say, oh, you're going to be kicked out of the building if you don't have X, Y, Z. Or the other internet myth going around right now is that your check is going to stop if you don't set up a My Social Security account. And there's a bunch of garbage out there in social media land about that, and that is all BS. If you don't set up a Social Security account, what can't you do? You can't go online. It's like, yeah, duh. And that's it. So, but if you don't want to go online to do stuff, then, under the new Social Security, if you set up a Social Security account like 5 years ago, then you have to do it again under the new secure system that they came up with last year. But if you don't want to do stuff online, more power to you. So your check is not going to stop. And social media people out there, stop freaking people out. So, can my current wife use my work record to qualify for Social Security disability if I'm not drawing it, even though I'm 62? No, not for disability. Disability, you have to get it on your own record. The only exception is if you shuffle off your mortal coil and disabled widows benefits. So the only people, so disabled widows benefits can get disability on another record, and children can get disability on a parent's record called disabled adult child benefits. So, Purple Love, hi, Dr. Ed and everyone. Hey, what's up? Bill, since they have fired so many employees at Social Security, does that mean there are less people to do the reviews on current disability patients? Yes. Yeah. As they technically, I guess, weren't fired. They were, given, it's like leave or take your chances type thing. So, yes. But what's going to be crazy is because those allocations, so you're the current disability patient. So you're probably talking about continuing disability reviews. So people that are currently on disability, they have those CDRs, continuing disability reviews, to confirm that they're still disabled, every year, 5 years or 3 years or 7 years or whatever the case may be. And your question is if they're still able to do that. Well, they have to do those. That's a separate allocation from Congress. The Congress says, okay, Social Security, well, here's the money for, for people to work. Here's money for the electricity, for the buildings and stuff like that. And here's a completely separate pool of money to make sure people are receiving their disability correctly and make sure there's no fraud out there. And so this pocket of money here will be able to, do, 2 million CDRs. So you have to do 2 million CDRs. So that usually broke down the offices. Like my office, we'd get a quota and says, okay, you have to do this quarter, you have to do 300 CDRs. And if we didn't do 300 CDRs, my boss would be calling me up and say, Ed, how come you did 299 CDRs? What happened? Ed, why'd you do 301 CDR? How come we went over? So yeah, it was a nightmare. So yeah. But the problem is there's still the staff are going to be doing those, and they're not going to help people with, spouse benefits and survivor benefits. It's a kind of a whack-a-mole type situation. So for those who remember whack-a-mole. William, I start retirement benefit January 2025. In February, I was paid out accrued vacation earned in 24. Am I correct that this amount will not be included when calculating my earnings limit for 2025? Yes and no. Um, because it's going to be coming in this check, Social Security won't know until you file taxes next year. So for this year, once you do your checks, your taxes in 2026, and it's notified to to Social Security, then Social Security might send you a nastygram and say, "Hey, you said you were going to be under the $23,400, but you made a lot more money. What's going on here?" And then what you just have to do is just go down there and say, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." But that was money for a previous year. So yeah. So it doesn't count, but it probably will. And you just have to fix it. You just have to go down there because Social Security doesn't know, where that, the origin of that money, what it's supposed to go for. So it's pretty easy. So I wouldn't sweat it. When you get the letter, go down there and show it. Hubs, retired Fed, just got his Medicare, 457 days for SSDI. Yeah, that's crazy. He's thinking of suspending FEHB, used in original Medicare and Champ VA. Thanks for teaching us, Dr. Weir. You're welcome. Yeah, that's you got to compare all the apples and oranges to all those different programs. My friend in Germany was married to a U.S. citizen over 10 years. Can she receive money from his Social Security? But she never lived in the U.S. and don't have a Social Security number. There are totalization agreements. So if you were married to a U.S. citizen, a spouse of a U.S. citizen, and for whatever reason, each country has a different totalization agreement. So I would tell her to reach out to the U.S. Embassy in Germany and file a claim and see what happens, and see whether totalization, because what the totalization agreement is Social Security, the federal government makes deals with other countries, and Germany is going to give our people that work in Germany their Social Security benefits based on X, Y, and Z. So we will reciprocate and do kind of the same thing. But yeah. What if I've been already receiving the benefits on my deceased spouse? Can I go back and apply on him? So no, you can't apply twice on the same person. Let's see here. Lori, my spousal says I am getting spousal support based on my own record. Okay, that doesn't make sense. Why not his records? Yeah, spousal support doesn't. Yeah, if you're getting a check from a spouse, then your check is from the spouse. I am worried about the GOP getting screwed up. What connects the grand old party, the GOP? Yeah. What connects me to his record? If you file for benefits on his record, that's what connects you. So, Ed, is disability retroactive? It could very well be. If like the person whose hubs filed and was approved after 400 and something days, they probably got retroactive benefits. So if they filed and it took a year to get their benefits approved, and when their benefits approved, they determined that, yeah, we determined your benefits should go back to when you first applied, or a year later, or a year earlier, whatever. Yep, absolutely. Lisa, please be sure to hit the like button. Yes, please hit the like button. That's how we get this information out there to people. Let's see here. I'm jumping around here. We got a lot of questions, so I'm trying to jump around to actual questions. I started collecting at 62, my husband at 66, full retirement age. Do I have to file to Social Security to get any of his money? Yes, you do. He makes too much more in vendors than I do. Yes. So if he filed, you have to go ahead and file for benefits. That is what's called the deemed filing, because you're already collecting benefits. And as soon as he's entitled to benefits, you're supposed to file for benefits on his record as well. So, Patricia, still no update from Social Security regarding my survivor WEP payment increase. The survivor is actually GPO. But anyway, mine should be an easy case. I can't get an appointment at a local office given the runaround. Don't call back as promised. Yeah, they probably the reason they don't call back is that's not being done at that office. That the WEP GPO, the Social Security Fairness Act, is being done, centrally, probably in Baltimore or one of the regional, payment centers. So the local office probably can't help you at all. That's why they're, kind of ignoring you. They shouldn't. They should at least tell you that. But yeah, the GPO I assume you've already filed a claim and you're on that person's record, but it's being fully offset. The tooth or your non-covered pension is fully offsetting the benefit you would be entitled. So that means you're on that person, your spouse's record, your deceased spouse's record. So as long as you're on there, you're just sitting there, but in non-pay status because of the GPO. And then that's what they're working to release now. So I'm filing for benefits in May, 3 months prior to my 62nd birthday. When can my spouse file for spousal benefits? He's for retirement age. Do I need to collect first? So you file for benefit. Remember, you have to be 62 the entire month. So if you're, born on the 1st or something, then you're good. But anyway, so you file for benefits, and then if your spouse goes ahead and files for benefits, or if their spouse is already receiving benefits, then you file for benefits on his record, or vice versa. So as soon as yours start, then you're entitled to spouse, or he's entitled to spouse. So should I retire now? I turned 65 in July, but my retirement age is 67. Yeah, completely 100% your decision. And here's some of the things. Do you need the money? Then do it. Pull the trigger. Are you working? If you're working, making over $23,400, your benefits are going to be reduced, or, one for every $2 you go over. Is there anybody waiting to start benefits once you start benefits, a spouse or children or anything like that? How's your health, genes, taxes, can you, investments, and, are you worried about the check stopping in the future, being cut in the future? So yeah, those are, I've made a bunch of videos on all of the details there of each one of those questions. Let's see. My ex-husband and I married, divorced 2 times. We were married for 7 years each time. He passed away in 2013 after we divorced. Can I collect on his Social Security benefits? There is an exception. If you married him, if you were married and you divorced, and then by the end of the following year, by December 31st on the following year, if you remarried that same person, then Social Security can add those 2 times together. So if you were married 7 years, that's 14 years. But you had to be remarried to that same person by the end of the next calendar year. So I would definitely, if that's the case, I would definitely reach out. But you're probably going to get a little pushback because a lot of Social Security employees don't know that, particularly the people at the front. They're not specialists in retirement. So, Carly, thank you, Ed, for getting out the calculator soon. I can't wait for it. Thanks for helping. Yeah, sorry, I've teased it. It was going to be the website, and there was only going to be about 3 or 4 calculators and very, very limited websites. But yeah, everything but my hair, I always go overboard. So I've added, way too much stuff, but it's going to be awesome. I just saw where I have to log into Social Security Online to confirm my identity to keep receiving my benefit. And yeah, no, that's, wherever you see that there is some newspaper disability. I forget what the torts, I'm not going to say the name, out of Spain. And they write a bunch of articles that are just BS and about Social Security retirement and stuff. And so, yeah, I saw the article, and I don't know what a couple of, I guess they're disabled, a couple of disabled people in Spain. And so that's what but they write a bunch of articles that are published in the United States on Social Security retirement and disability and stuff. And I haven't seen anything of use in any of their articles yet, but it's all, I started receiving my ex-deceased spouse Social Security at 65. I got a letter saying they made a mistake and gave me an extra $50. Don't they owe me the extra $50 underpayment for 15 months? Yeah, if they made a mistake and they made it effective, 15 months ago, then then absolutely they should pay the retroactive if it was, and they're like, we made a mistake, and so we're going to pay you extra $50. The mistake we made was starting 15 months ago. Yes, they should pay you back that 15 months. So definitely reach out and say, hey, where's that money? I reached my full retirement age and applied online, received an email saying it was being processed and might take 30 days. That was on March 2nd. I haven't heard anything else. Should I be worried? Reached your fraud, applied online. You know, with processing applications, everybody should be worried now because Social Security just doesn't have the staff. They were already at a 50-year low in terms of staffing before Doge and Elon even started messing with Social Security. But now it's 10 times worse. So your case, you filed on March 2nd and you pushed the button, and then it went to a particular person in the local office or something, or the regional office, and that person was working on it, and then they got relocated out of the building, as we say in the Marine Corps, a BCD, a big chicken dinner, bad conduct discharge, or whatever. So maybe wherever your case is, they're looking for another employee, that hasn't been let go to work it. So contact your politician. Say, what the heck are you guys doing? My divorced sister's husband died 7 or 8 years ago and never was notified about Social Security benefits. She is on her own Social Security benefits as of 5 years ago. Can she get benefits? Yeah, if she's entitled to survivor benefits, that she was married to that person for at least 10 years, yes. And I would ask for maximum retroactive pay. There is kind of an unknown exception that if you're entitled to survivor benefits and the reason you didn't file for them in time is because you didn't know of that person's passing, then Social Security might be able to give you more than just 6 months of retroactive benefits. They might be able to go all the way back, and that could be, tons of money possibly. So yes, reach out to Social Security, have her reach out to Social Security, and number one, see if there's any extra money there, any extra benefits, file for that claim. And then when, the claim specialist that takes your claim says, oh, okay, here's your extra $300 a month, whatever, and we're going to start it this month. And then you say, hey, isn't there an exception about, that we can go back? Because I didn't know he was passing, of his passing. Weren't you all supposed to notify me and stuff like that? And they might hem and haw. And if they disagree, and if they only give her benefits starting that particular month, then file a reconsideration, an SSA 561, and say, hey, I think I should get more retroactive benefits. But remember, anytime you get retroactive benefits, there's probably going to be, it depends how old your sister is, but anytime you take benefits early, they're reduced. So, but then again, you get those checks. So you have to do those calculations. I receive, okay, I already answered that question. Yes, Bella, please tap the like, subscribe, share the channel. Yes, please. Thank you very much. I started collecting benefits 62, now 79. Can I collect any money from my husband who filed for retirement age, now 80? He collects much more than I do. Just wondering. Yeah, you have to go by. So this is kind of the thing I was talking about today. The calculations on spouse benefits go based on your PIA, not your MBA. Okay, so Mary, you're saying that your husband receives a whole bunch more than you do. And for your particular case, your benefit, your husband his benefit amount has to be twice your benefit amount, but not what your check is. That's your MBA. That's your monthly benefit amount. That's what you're actually check. And if you receive benefits early, or your husband filed for benefits later, so those numbers are different. The numbers that Social Security uses to determine that 50% is the PIA, the primary insurance amount, the amount you and him would have received if you had started your benefits at full retirement age. Okay, so that's the number they use. And you're like, I don't know what those numbers are. No problem. You can, go online and see what it's called, the PIA, the primary insurance amount. You can both go online and see the numbers, or you can call Social Security, once you get to, big old, big gulp of coffee, sit on the phone for a few hours, and then, both of you, and then when you get someone on the phone, you give them your Social Security numbers and all that kind of good stuff. And you say, hey, can I get any money off this guy? And they'll look at his benefit amount, look at your benefit amount. And if there's more money, then yeah, definitely. I hope there is, but then again, it's bittersweet because you're 79 and you could have very well started, when he turned 66, that's when he started his benefit amount, that's when you should have filed. So hopefully there's more money, but that's terrible because you should have been receiving it for years. So filing for benefits in May, 62 in July. When can my spouse file for spousal? After I receive my first check in August or same time as me? Yep, same time as you. So let's say you have a phone appointment, then you file for benefits and you do all the phone appointment and stuff, and then you hand the phone to her, and then she can file at the same time. Actually, it's easier that way for everybody. I'm 66 and retired. My ex, whom I was married to for 10 years, is 55. Can I collect from his Social Security even though he is not retired? No. He has to start receiving Social Security benefits in order for you to start receiving Social Security benefits on his record. You can start receiving Social Security on your own record if you're eligible, but no, not on his. Life is beautiful. Yes, it is. In 2022, 62, we decided to file spouse benefits for me. So I have only 24% from my husband benefit. Is it correct? Yeah. So your benefit, anytime you take money from Social Security, pretty much your benefit is reduced, whether it's retirement benefits or spouse benefits or divorce spouse benefits or surviving spouse benefits. Anytime you take money early, it's reduced. So what does early mean? Early is before your full retirement age. So, and I am on SSDI. August will be my 2 years. Will I get Medicare in August? Do I have to pay for Part B? I will have TRICARE for life. Do I need a supplement? All right, a lot of questions there. Will I get Medicare in August? Yes. So after being on SSDI for 2 years, your Medicare, they'll sign you up automatically, send you your Part A and Part B. And because you have TRICARE, you have to keep both of those, call TRICARE, at that time just to double check. Do I need a supplement? No. Don't let anybody try to sell you a supplement. But you're in the right category. I always recommend Medicare supplements, the Plan N or the Plan G first. But your TRICARE is basically like a supplement. So you don't need anything else. There's people that try to sell you that stuff, and no. Even Chapter. That's why my son and I chose them to partner with. They help people with Medicare. So if you didn't have TRICARE, I would say, hey, call up Chapter and they'll find a supplement for you and stuff. But they say, hey, if you got TRICARE, you don't need anything. You're good. So, is there any earnings limit in the year before starting retirement benefits? Yes. In the year before, yes. From 62, you're limited when you receive early retirement or early spouse benefits or early surviving spouse benefits. And this year it's to $23,400. The year you turn your full retirement age, then it switches to like $62,000 for the months before you hit your full retirement age. When getting survivor benefits at 62 and you get married, do you lose your survivor benefits? No, if you get married after 60, you're good. So that's the survivor benefits is an exception like that. I've been getting Social Security off my mama when she died because I was born disabled and I'm 66 now. What can I do about the Social Security check? Continue taking disability check or retirement? Just forget about it. It happens automatically. So you're getting disabled adult child benefits, and then you're getting disabled adult child benefits. And then when you reach your full retirement age, they're switched to just regular retirement benefits. So you don't do anything. It's an automatic switch. But because after your full retirement age, you're going to be on regular retirement benefits, there's no more CDRs and no more work limitations. You can do whatever you want in case you want to go out there and, make a couple extra bucks. Wouldn't it make more sense? That's a terrible way to start a question when we're talking about government programs. Where are you going here, Patricia? Wouldn't it make more sense for a worker collecting Social Security to be able to make as much as possible and the taxes go back into the system? Okay, so you're talking about early retirement. It's been like that since 1935 because Social Security was supposed to be a replacement for lost wages. had this thing called the Depression in 1935. But when you retire, you essentially lose your wages, whether it's, you get fired or you get laid off or, whatever that you get pushed out, whatever. Social Security is supposed to replace lost wages. And if you're not losing those wages because you're continuing to work, then that's not the way that it was designed. So, but yeah, once you hit your full retirement age, you can make $1 billion a month, and it goes into FICA, but just not those 5 years between like 62 and 67. So I get what you mean, but yeah, that's the way the system's been since 1935. Because if everybody started their benefits at 62 and still able to work and got their full benefit amount at 62, or then Social Security, the cuts wouldn't happen in 2033, which it's anticipated, they would happen tomorrow. So, Susan, I'm a widow. I collect my own and also my late husband's Social Security survivors. I only had 9 years of work before I was disabled. My husband had 35 years of work. How would I? And then second question here. I'm not trying to figure out. Yeah, I don't see the other part of the question. But yeah, if you're disabled, so you're receiving collecting on in your own spouse benefits. So it sounds like, yeah, you file for everything you're eligible for. There, you can't switch to your own because you're already on your own. It sounds like you are right in the right place, and hopefully I see another place here. Let's see here. Today is my birthday. Happy birthday. I turned 67. Worked as a civil servant for 33 years, 10 years prior, paid into Social Security, haven't received a Fairness Act letter. Do I qualify for it? It depends. Civil servant, did you work under the FERS system or this, the old CSRS? And if you are receiving Social Security benefits and your Social Security check has been wept, then you should be unwept. So based on the Social Security Fairness Act. Both my wife and myself were on disability until my wife passed away in 2023. I inquired about surviving spouse and was told I don't qualify for any. We were both 59 at the time she passed. So don't qualify. So you were married, and when she passed and everything, you're technically qualified, but what they probably mean is there's no money there. So your benefit amount is higher. So if your benefit amount is higher than what you would receive on her record, then you're in the right place. But hopefully you did get that embarrassingly low lump sum death payment, $255. So at least you're definitely entitled to that. I saw SSA press release. They're considered reinstating fines for overpayments up to $10K. Have you seen the release? Any comments? Yeah, I've seen that. And yeah, I used to give, if you're a regular viewer, I know, you probably know I do kind of this strategic overpayment where if you're filing for benefits early and you might be a little bit over the 23,400, or you're not exactly sure until, October, November, December comes around. So sometimes I tell people, just let it ride. And then when you get the nasty gram, the following year in January, February, March, you just say, yeah, I know I made $1,000 over, and I know I owe you $500. Here's the check for $500. So, but if they're going to start penalizing people for that, and then, yeah, that goes out the door. But I mean, the problem with that is, you have to have people at Social Security to do that stuff. You can't say, hey, we're going to penalize you. We're going to, if you do that strategic overpayment, like Ed just says, we're going to charge you, not $500. We're going to charge you another $1,000 as a penalty because you had this overpayment. And you're like, well, I called y'all's office, 6 times and was on hold for 4 hours each time. How do you expect us to do stuff and make sure we don't get an overpayment when y'all don't have staff there? Yeah. So I think it's a setup. I I think it's a setup. So there's that. Let's see here. What other? My brother gets $13.13 a month and is in a nursing home, but only got $758 this month. What happened here? Do you know? Yeah, I have no idea. 1313, that's not SSI, supplemental security income, so it has nothing to do with any of that. I would reach out and find out, does your brother have an overpayment and they're, withholding money for an overpayment? There isn't a living arrangement change if that's, a regular SSDI. The only thing I can think of is some type of overpayment. So let's see here. Women often have to leave work early to care for elder parents, therefore claims her Social Security early. Once her husband passes away, can she reapply for higher amount? Yeah, if you're entitled to survivor benefits and that's a higher benefit amount, absolutely. Let's see. As a surviving spouse at 61, can I collect my husband's first between now and until I'm 65 or 67? How much can I make and still collect a survivor check? Yes, you can. So this is when you file for benefits as a spouse and that spouse, your current or your ex-spouse or something is still out there alive and kicking, you have to file for benefits on your own record. You don't on survivor benefits. So you can file for surviving spouse benefits on your deceased husband, and then don't touch yours and let yours continue to increase until you hit 67 or 70. Yes, then you switch over onto your own. And then how much can you make? $23,400. Anything over that, Social Security holds back $1 for every $2 you go over. Why did my adult child on SSI get denied DAC? I claimed retirement. He's disabled since age 16, on SSI since 22. Kept him on SSI. They're the ones who told us to apply. If the child since so 20 they were, the child will receive an SSI disability, but that was under a child disability benefits. And then what happens is once you hit 18, they reevaluate the disability based on adult guidelines, that's disabled adult child guidelines. And it sounds as though possibly they decided that, as a child, he was disabled, but as an adult now, for whatever reason, they're saying, we think he can work. But if you disagree, then you know what to do. File an appeal, SSA 561, and say you made a complete wrong decision and you need to reevaluate that. Dear sir, a veteran, 48 years old, has rheumatoid arthritis. Can he apply for SSDI? Yes, absolutely. Anybody can apply. If you think your disability prevents you from working, absolutely apply. Doesn't matter how old you are. So if remarried and still married, you can't draw benefits from your first spouse. That is correct. Yep. Regarding being 64 till December on SSDI many years, now self-employed, though not making much traction or money, SGA, trial work period, trigger month, 9 months, over 5 years. Can you explain more, please? Okay. This is why I wish my website, I'm going to have diagrams and stuff on there. But yeah, so if you're on disability, SSDI, you are allowed to work the trial work period. You can make as much as you want, you make $1 billion a month. But any money you make over $1,160, you've triggered a trial work period, because Social Security wants people to go back to work, So if you're on disability, they would like to see you go back to work. It's good for you. It's good for, your community. It's good because you pay taxes. You don't take money from the Social Security Disability Trust Fund anymore. So it's good for everybody. So that's why they give you all these incentives to try to go back to work. And the trial work period is one of those. It's a good thing. But if you go over $1,160, you trigger one of those months. If you do 9 of those months, that's it. So you can make $1 billion a month for 9 months. After that, if you continue making $1 billion, then they're going to shut off your disability benefits probably. Well, more likely, yes. So you are allowed to work. I've done a bunch of videos on more detailed on that and difference between trial, work period, and substantial gainful activity and all the rest of it. So please explain what happens if you have a sizable capital gains. Does Social Security, Medicare penalize you for a year or for good? So you're talking about the IRMA, income-related monthly adjustment amount. It's only good for 1 year. So, and then they recalculate it every year. You can get the extra Part B premium. You have to pay the extra Part B premium if year after year after year you make a lot of money or have a lot of capital gains, but they reevaluate it every year. So it's only good for that 1 year, and then they reevaluate it the next year. And if it applies again, then yes. So also my penalty for enrolling in Part D was discontinued last year. So yeah, you also have an extra premium for Part D as well under that IRMA. So I turned 65 in September. Should I file now for benefits? Too early. It's too early. I won't be getting much, so I plan to live in Mexico. Can I reject both Part A and Part B of Medicare? Can I file online? Sorry for morning question. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's too early for September. Wait, about 3 months and go ahead and apply. Yeah, you can't reject Part A. It's zero premium anyway. But you can reject Part B. But remember, if you ever come back and want to sign up for Part B, you can't do it until January, February, March. And they're going to charge you a penalty, 12 months, 10% for every 12 months you didn't have it. Can you file online? Yep. Unless you do it from Mexico, then it might be more difficult. You might be able to do it. I don't know. It's the computer system, the Social Security computer system, secure system. It's always, prevented people from filing overseas because don't want, it's a security type thing. Dr. Ed, tip on how to find a Social Security number of your ex. If you are divorced and have a copy of your past joint tax return or any document that requires Social Security, you'll find it on the exes. Yep, that is a fact. Let's see. And it's also on death certificates and yep. Hello, Ed Pitt. Hello, everybody just got off work. Yeah. Inside joke. Every now and then somebody comes in here and calls me a liar, and I'm like, but I am Brad Pitt's identical twin brother. And so that was the inside joke. I was told because my wife was born in 51, the spousal rules are different. I am 59, not collecting Social Security. She is in 70s and collecting. Is she eligible for spousal benefits? I am not retired. So yeah, so there was, that's a law change that happened in 2016, effective 2016, that, the thing about deemed filing, the spouse has to file for benefits in order to file for spouse benefits. That was changed effective 2016. So you might be under the old one. But your wife has to go ahead and, so I would call Social Security and say, hey, are we under the old system where we can file and suspend and all kind of strategies that people used to use? But yeah, people can't use those anymore unless you're under the old laws. Turned 62 3 weeks ago online on the site. I show the 3 stages. My application was filed January. Now I'm now 62, and it's been 3 months since application. Site still shows second stage. Yeah, I applaud Social Security for trying the stage thing, and but yeah, your issue is you just turned 62 3 weeks ago, and it's the 21st. So you just turned 62 this month in April. So you're not entitled to benefits till May, because you have to be 62 the entire month. So I'm figuring, so you're, they're not going to pull the trigger. Yours, oh gosh, what was the term? Auto adjudicate. You're on auto adjudicate. And basically when your time comes, the Social Security employees already pushed the button, but the computer system waits for the month you're entitled to activate it. So you're probably good. It just, your benefits won't start till May. and then you'll get your first check in June. Obviously, always pays a month late. Wow. Still, as always, tons of questions, and we only got one more minute, so I'm going to jump down here to just a random person and answer a few questions. I'm 65 years old, drawing on my deceased spouse's Social Security. When I reach 67, can I file under my own account for full benefits? Absolutely. If you never touched your own account, 100%. Yep, that is a very, very good strategy. Or you can wait until you're 68 or 69 or 70, and because your benefits continue to go up. So, but I would call it, a couple 3 months before it's 67, and say, hey, again, how much of my benefits if I switch over to my own at 67, and then say, what if I wait till 68 or 70, and then they'll tell you those numbers, and then you make your decision. So, let's see here. Thank you for what you do. I tried to call Social Security today and was told there is a 200-day wait for my Part B status. That's going to hurt a lot of people. Yeah. The lack of staff at the Social Security offices are, people are not going to get the benefits, when they need them, retirement benefits, survivor benefits. People are going to be without health insurance because, if you lose your health insurance from work and, you need to sign up for it, by next week, and then Social Security doesn't have the staff to process your Part B enrollment, then you just might be without health insurance and prescriptions for a month or 2 months or 3 months. So yeah, they really need to do anything. But you can reach out to Chapter, and maybe they can, in your particular case, they can check to see if your Part B is, because they have access to the Medicare system, and so they can see maybe your card is in the mail, and they can see whether your Part A and Part B and everything has been, sent out, and if, they can help you find a plan and all that kind of stuff. And they don't charge for any of that. So, all right, we are over an hour, and we are out of time again as usual. I'm actually going to be taking off for about 3 days. Go figure. I've been doing these for every day for months and months and months, and my wife says I have to go on vacation. So there's that. So I'll be back. I might do another video before I leave, but yeah, I'll be away for 3 days. So as usual, y'all take care of each other, and